All right, Tom, I gotta tell you, I am more excited about the market right now than I have been in quite a while. This morning, we saw just a barrage of selling pressure hammer a bunch of stocks down, and now we have giant earnings from Microsoft, Google, Meta, and Amazon all this week. Microsoft and Google just reported they're popping up in after hours. So in today's video, we're going to talk about exactly what's happening in the market right now, some of the best plays for tomorrow, and then at the end of the video, we're also going to have a $3.4 million trade that you won't want to miss. And then this video is extra special because we're also going to talk about a company that is set to be seized by the US government. So we have a great video today. Make sure to stick with us. But Tom, let's get right into it.
Yeah, Mike, today was a crazy day. The S&P 500 gapped down this morning, and it actually continued all throughout the day. And recently, we have not seen continuation like this. We've been seeing a lot of choppy movement, a lot of up and down price action. But today, we got that big extended move to the downside. And early on, a lot of tech stocks started really pushing us lower. Apple actually had a bit of a move up this morning, but then started really trading off as the day went. Microsoft, as we can see here, did actually very bad all day long in the earnings, but started blasting up here after they reported some pretty good numbers. So, Mike, getting right into some of these earnings, I am loving Microsoft right now. This is awesome to see them running up in after hours, and it looks like they actually beat on EPS and revenue, which is awesome. That revenue came in at $52.86 billion versus $51.02 billion. That is awesome right there to beat on that. The EPS beat by a little bit, of course. And whenever I read through here, it was great to see that their cloud segment here did great. It was up 16% higher than the consensus by street account. So that's fantastic. Now, there was some pretty bad stuff that showed that some growth is slowing in some cases, but not as much as expected. And even though the growth is slowing, there's still growth. So that's good to see. And it's good to see them beat expectations like this.
Exactly. Like the thing is like when you come into the market at a time where there's a lot of fear and honestly just a lot of uncertainty and risk, and you come in and you beat top and bottom line expectations, you grow your revenue 7% year over year, and you have a little bit of that hype factor because let's not forget, Microsoft does own some of OpenAI, which is the company behind ChatGPT. So you have that AI hype with it. And earnings weren't bad. So I think the biggest thing here is that earnings just, weren't that bad, right? And when you have earnings that just aren't that bad in a time like this, it's kind of a good thing. So basically, the market liked it, and Microsoft is having a great run in after hours right now.
Yeah, it is. It's actually pushing a lot of other stocks up as well. You can see the SPYs running up here. And, Google reported some good numbers too, which we'll get into in a second. But talking about Microsoft a little bit more, they were really selling off today, Mike. They ran all the way down to that 275 support there, right around market close. And with this pop in after hours, they kind of retested some of these big resistances up here around 291 to 293. So I'll really be watching this one tomorrow. If it ends up running above some of these recent highs, that is going to be pretty surprising given that big sell-off today. I would have expected maybe a slight pop-up with earnings, but I did not expect us to get all the way back up there.
So Tom, the $1 million question is, are we going to see an earnings continuation run out of this? And, it's a tough one to say because, like you pointed out, there's a decent amount of resistance overhead. And, as we know, earnings weren't like the best ever, but at the same time, they weren't like horrible by any means. So it's like a lot of times, especially recently, we've been seeing a lot of earnings continuations over the past couple of quarters. So we'll see what happens. But I think the biggest thing will be, even earnings throughout the rest of this week too, because even though Microsoft had, some decent earnings, there's still a lot of big moves set in store.
Yeah, exactly. And I cannot wait to see some of the conference calls and stuff like that coming out. And, talking about the other earnings, we'll actually talk about some more coming out here over the next couple of days in just a second. But Google reported tonight. We can't forget about them either. That one's fantastic. Running up and holding above $100, which is great. You can see in after hours, they were very volatile at first. Ran down to like 101, had some prints down there, and now they're all the way back up, all the way back above 108, as it looks like they also had some decent numbers, Mike. So looking at them, their revenue came in at 69.79 billion versus 68.9 billion expected. And I really like to see some of these numbers with YouTube here. That advertising revenue came in at 6.69 billion versus 6.6 billion. The reason that I love this with the advertising revenue, this might even be spilling over into a couple other stocks. I also noticed Meta was flying up in after hours a little bit as well.
And Tom, with Google, you cannot not mention their $70 billion buyback. Look at that. Alphabet said its board authorized a $70 billion share buyback. That's big. That's $70 billion of pure buying pressure into Google stocks. So that's huge. It's a good sign. Whenever you have buybacks, it's a great thing for shareholders, and it's exactly what you want to see if you're holding a stock like this. So that's good. That'll definitely boost it up as well. And it looks like Google is actually, kind of breaking out above like the resistance over like the past couple of days and weeks, where Microsoft is still a little bit, underneath those levels.
Yeah, exactly. So it's pretty weird to see those like kind of comparisons there off those two stocks. And I'm really hoping that Microsoft can get that nice continuation, but it's hard to say right now because as we know, there's just so many other earnings on the radar as well. I will say though, for the rest of the week, I don't think that there's going to be as influential of an earnings day as there was here. Tomorrow, we do have Boeing before the market opens. And then at end after hours, we have Meta and Roku. Those are pretty big. Teledocs also reporting, which we've talked about a lot over the past year as well. Thursday, though, is pretty big. We have Amazon, Intel, Snapchat, US Steel, First Solar, Pinterest, all in after hours there. Merck, AbbVie, Altria, MasterCard, Southwest, CAT, American Airlines, all before the market opens. So Thursday is another big day. But, man, even Boeing and Meta tomorrow are going to be pretty big.
There we go. It's a very exciting week. And Tom, let's head over to some earnings, like week by week data for us to see, I guess you could say, the breadth of earnings that we have. So basically, we could see today is April 25th, and we could see we're starting to really, really heat up into earnings season. We are almost at like the peak part of earnings season where we have like the most powerful, influential companies reporting and the most amount of stocks reporting. So we could see over the rest of this week and next week, we have some huge reports. So the volatility that we're seeing right now is not going away, at least for the next couple weeks. And I think that's an amazing thing, Tom, because like this intraday price action is something that I love. And I think a bunch of people have a bunch of opportunity with this type of price action compared to some of the price action that we were seeing like a couple days ago.
Yeah, exactly. And, with earnings right now, it's pretty weird because like we're seeing these big moves up with some of these stocks, like Google, Microsoft. We had a lot of the banks moving up at first, Bank of America, JP Morgan. Those stocks were really starting to get some good moves there with earnings, at least initially. You can see JP Morgan here has actually held up pretty well ever since their earnings. But we also still have a pretty big situation on our hands, Mike, with FRC. Man, look at this stock, down 50% right now. I saw some news today, right when the market closed, it said that they might be seized by the U.S. government. So, man, Mike, this is pretty scary here. I'm wondering if this is going to maybe put a little bit of a dampening on some of these big earnings moves. It's pretty scary. Microsoft is still under resistance. Google's kind of right around there. So who knows, if this ends up sending stocks lower tomorrow, man, that's not good. It might just wipe out some of those big moves we just had.
Yeah, let's go to a daily chart really quickly. For those of you who don't know, this is one of those, you could say, regional bank stocks that got clobbered over the past couple of months. Literally in the beginning of this year, this stock was trading for like around $120 a share, and now it's down to $8.50. The bulk of the destruction actually happened in March, as most of us already know how there was a bunch of problems going on with bank stocks during that time. But this stock is especially struggling as they lost so many of their deposits. And, when you're a bank and, you lose half of your deposits, that causes a very, very big problem. So, this stock is not looking too good. Honestly, like it's brutal. I'm just gonna say it how it is. You can look for puts on it, but honestly, I feel like I don't know how much meat is left on the bone at this point, especially given how options are pretty expensive on it.
Yeah, and this stock is going to get extremely, extremely volatile. If it even opens, Mike, like who knows? Like we might actually come tomorrow and maybe the stock will actually be halted or something. And I'm sure we might see that with some of the crazy, moves that might happen with this one. I think there was a couple halts even today. So keep it on the radar, guys. And guess what, Mike? We should have even known that this was going to happen because guess who called it? Good old Cramer. If we look here, Unusual Whales put a pretty good story out. Look at this one, 6:21 a.m. on March 10th. FRC is the new focus. Very good bank. Now, I will say, we've seen a lot of big banks lately put some money into FRC. People tried to save them. I actually just talked about it today with a couple guys in chat. But look at Cramer here, Mike. We should have known what was going to happen. And then we see here, that's obviously the big move with the bank. There's some hilarious memes. Just inverse it here. That's hilarious. And even Jimothy Cramer here. There's no way we're replacing the horse and buggy.
These memes crack me up. Like, I'll just be scrolling on Twitter and then it's like, you could have like literally any stock. Like, let's say it's like FRC, with news that it's getting seized by the US government. And you can bet your every dollar that Jim Cramer has made a statement on that stock saying the exact opposite. And it works like almost every time. So this cracks me up. But yeah, I mean, FRC, it's definitely not looking good. And it's definitely a wild stock.
Yeah, it's funny, but yeah, I feel bad for this stock, Mike. I feel bad for everybody who's been betting on this one. And, this is why you don't really play with the fire. I know some people have been asking us what our favorite bank stocks are. I know you've been mentioning Citigroup a lot lately, Mike. I really love that one. And I'm a big fan of JP Morgan and a couple others as well. I'm a really big fan of sticking with safety. It's good to gamble sometimes, but, I'd rather gamble on almost like marijuana stocks, than a bank that's going under.
Yeah, like if I'm gonna take a risk, I want it to be a risk where it's like it's worth taking. I don't just like buying any random stock because it might pop tomorrow. No, like I want there to be some, true edge there, some true potential. And especially with bank stocks, it's kind of like a rich get richer situation. Basically your big bank stocks, JP Morgan, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, stocks like that, they tend to just, they're just putting us in such a good position where it's like, especially compared to some of these regional bank stocks, it's really hard to compete. And just the way the system works in the United States, it's like, realistically, if JP Morgan or any other bank of that magnitude ever really got squeezed, you can bet anything that they're going to get bailed out.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the big things that, could even happen with FRC. We saw that even happen with Silicon Valley Bank, at least a lot of their loans, maybe not the actual company, but I know a lot of the businesses that had money in there and et cetera were actually forgiven and the money was insured. Even some of the money that I saw over the FDIC insured limit was actually given back or insured, I guess, by the government, whatever you want to say. But I know the government definitely always steps in and will try to do anything, especially right now, because it's just such a bad situation that, you never know what's going to happen if these banks keep collapsing and we keep seeing this. People are going to really run away from those smaller ones.
Alrighty, well Tom, let's get right into some good setups for tomorrow. One stock I'm watching pretty closely is Apple. This stock has been falling over the past couple days and it has been relatively weak. Even with the positive earnings reactions from Microsoft and Google and after hours, Apple isn't moving up too much. It has been continuously making lower highs and lower lows over like the past week or so, and this is usually a bearish sign. So going into tomorrow and honestly the rest of the week, I'm going to be having a close eye on Apple to the downside for, some like put day trades.
Yeah, I agree. It's awesome. It's kind of sitting around that like 163.50, 164 support. I think this could be a really good one. And it did surprise me that they're not popping up more in after hours, with Google and all those other stocks moving like that. I would have thought they'd pop more. Talking about those stocks, Mike, just for a second, looks like they might be coming back down a little bit. I wonder if some of that FRC news or something like that is maybe coming into play. But one of my favorite stocks is going to be UVXY. Now, I know that the market looks like it's going up right now. You know, the Google just did well, Microsoft just did well in after hours. I'm still a pretty big believer that the market's pretty overextended and that I think we could get a bigger move to the downside here, even though some of these earnings are coming out positive. So I'm still going to watch this for tomorrow. If UVXY starts to break maybe $4.20 or $4.22, I'll definitely look at some intraday calls because look at that move today. 11% was no joke.
There we go. Another stock I'm watching pretty closely is NVDA. So this stock took a beating today, and NVDA is normally a pretty good stock for day trades because it just has that like good trendy, I don't want to say trendy, but good price action, we'll say, intraday. And it's to the downside right now. Similar to Apple, it's been making lower lows and lower highs over the past week, which is a bearish sign. And also other stocks in NVIDIA's industry, like AMD, has also been falling quite a bit. So I'll be watching NVIDIA to the downside pretty closely over the rest of the week.
Man, I will say, Mike, AMD had a pretty bad sell-off today, and I did notice that there was a humongous intraday support right around $85. And for anybody who doesn't know, we are now partnered with Bookmap. So check out the link down below. You guys would love Bookmap. I was watching AMD all day today on this $85 support. You can see how you can see the price action as it happens tick down here, and you can see all these volume dots right here. And what this big orange line is it's showing that there was a bunch of orders there intraday. So if you're a scalper or a day trader, you could have maybe front loaded some calls here for a nice support bounce. But what was awesome is that you can see later in the day, there was some big volume dot hits over here, and we got that big break lower. And then we got some, some liquidity coming in overhead that helped push us down. So I really like that. It was a nice confirmation to the downside under 85 today and a nice support bounce there. There's a lot of opportunities with Bookmap to help you get on entries and exits while scalping. So check it out down below.
I think the biggest difference is that you see the orders before before anything else. So for example, if we look through these giant buy orders that were just lingering with NVIDIA today, you can see how they were sitting there for hours at a time. And then once the stock finally got down to those levels, there were pretty big bounces along the way. So yeah, I love Bookmap. If you guys want to try it out, it'll be in the description down below. But yeah, I'm pretty excited for not only to use Bookmap more, but also just like for the rest of earnings season, Tom. Normally earnings season is one of the best like day trade opportunity time zones because you see price action and just pure momentum and power that is just not typical.
Yeah, exactly. And you can even see it right now in after hours moving. Look at Microsoft right now. You can see there's some pretty decent volume coming in actually still because of those earnings. And you can even see the big orders in after hours here. So very nice stuff. Bookmap's an awesome piece of software. I've been loving it the past few weeks since I've started using it. And there's been a lot of scalping opportunities with it. But man, you're right. NVIDIA was an awesome day trade as well. And I love that play to the downside with all these chip makers falling.
There we go. And then Tom, what other stocks are you watching for tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm actually looking at Meta, but I will say, Mike, they had a pretty big move up today, but they're running up right into our trend line. So there's a lot of hits here off the trend line. They do have earnings coming out tomorrow. So with this move up here, it's going to be very crucial. I'm watching for maybe a continuation up above this trend line. If that happens, I'll look for a nice move up, obviously for a quick scalp to the upside. But if we end up rejecting and falling back down, I'll look at some puts or maybe even not even trade this one at all. I was looking for puts, honestly, below like 206. But with that big move up in after hours, that's a pretty big thing to follow Google like that. And if that trend breaks, I think we could definitely go on an uptrend again.
Sounds good. All right, well, it is now time for the momentum plays. With the first one, we have Netflix to the downside.
NFLX. This one has been brutal since earnings came out. Go ahead and make them fall under 320, which is right around a big support.
All right, with the next one, we have UPS, also to the downside.
Yeah, UPS, that was oh my gosh, Mike, more brutal than I even thought. Go ahead and make that move under 175.
And with the last one, we have AMD, and we need both directions.
Yeah, so AMD, big drop down here to right around 83.60. If they break under that in after hours, watch for a push down. But if they re-break that big 85 support where we saw those big orders at on the book map today, go ahead and watch for a breakout to the upside.
All right, so you guys heard Tom. We have that upside level for potential day trade to the upside tomorrow, and we have that downside level for potential break to the downside. And then make sure not to forget about the UPS and Netflix potential day trades as well, only if they break below those lower levels. But it is now time for the big money $3.4 million trade of the day. Today, we will be looking at WIX, and we're looking at the 85 strike put options that expire on June 16th of 2023. Wix or Wix.com is a pretty popular web development company. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen their ads before, but essentially this stock has been trending in a pretty strong way over the past couple months. And the stock right now is lingering right around 87, and we're having someone dump $3.4 million into the 85 strike puts. I don't think this is a bad setup, especially if the market continues to get weak. Basically, the put options are very close in the money, and there's some time to them. So, yeah, I don't think it's a bad setup.
Yeah, I don't either. This is a pretty good one, and it's actually been in a huge channel here over the past few months, honestly, since July and June of last year. So it's almost been in a year-long uptrend here within this channel. And I think that if we start to break below this, that could be huge for them. And honestly, I don't even think it needs to break below. If we just continue to get a couple more red days here, that would be awesome for this trade. And they could just let this stock go before, they get into that month range where the theta decay really starts to hit them. That would probably be great for them to keep having another maybe 1 to 2% down day for the next couple days. That would be great for this play. And with 3.4 million, Mike, it only takes 33% to get $1 million on this one. So that's not bad.
And Tom, let's think bigger, or maybe I don't want to. I don't want to spook too many people out. But if this stock tanks down with earnings coming up, it's not uncommon to see options pop for over 100% or even more. So we'll see what happens, though. I'll keep my eye on this setup. I'm not going to enter it just yet, but if the market continues to get weaker and I just see this stock continuously fall down, I'll definitely consider entering it.
Yeah, and this is definitely one of those stocks that I think could do it. They have had a brutal move down since that COVID explosion, and we've been seeing a few stocks that have had these big moves down, continuing to move lower. So I could see Wix doing this, and yeah, that's a lot of money put in there. So 3.4 million, that is no joke.
You know it. If you guys are interested in capitalizing off of this earnings season volatility, check this out. Our bots crushed it today. We had an Amazon 106 strike put option alerted at $442 each. By the end of the day, it popped all the way up to $565 each, but it only gets a lot better from there. The first play of the day was a home run. It was with NVIDIA 270 strike put options, alerted at $460 each. These things literally went to $920 each by the end of the day. So that was a home run. Also, AMD put options went from 265 all the way up to 364. And then we had a BDX call option, which didn't really pop at all, but sometimes that happens, and we're just honest about it. So, of course, not every single play is a home run. No software, no strategy can be like that, but the bots do a great job, and they're only about to get very smarter pretty soon. So we're pumped for these new updates. The prices will rise as the bots get smarter, and we're just constantly reinvesting and reinvesting and reinvesting even more back into the software to just make it as smart as it could possibly be. And as it gets smarter, the prices will rise. So if you guys want to try it out, check out that first link in the description in the comments down below. You can cancel at any time and you save $41 off your first month. But Tom, while you're in the Discord, We also have to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, which is actually in the Profits channel, and that is Chander D. He had an amazing day today where it looks like he banked around almost you could say over 11 grand. So huge shout out to Chander. You've been in the chat for a couple months now, and it's awesome to see you have an amazing day like today. So great job.
Yeah, that's awesome. 11 grand. We usually don't see big plays like that. So, that's awesome. And Mike, look at that volatility today. That was probably a pretty good hold by him because look at that volatility early on. You can see there was a pretty big dip there and then came all the way back up. Now, that's called sticking with your trade. So, fantastic stuff, Chander. That is awesome. And man, that is a great day. Like I said, usually don't see $11,000 days on, volatile options like that.
You know it. All right, guys. Well, for tomorrow, we are set for a great, I was just going to say a lot of volatility. I'll say that. The market dumped today. Microsoft and Google is holding the entire market on their backs. So we'll see how strong they are when it comes to open tomorrow morning.
Yeah, we definitely will. And one thing I just wanted to mention really quick, there is a couple things coming up at the end of the week. On Thursday, we have the GDP growth rate, and then Friday, we have core PCE. Nothing too crazy, but hey, these earnings are definitely going to dictate the moves over the next few days.
There we go. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Remember, check out that first link in the description in the comments down below to try out our bots. They're great, and they're only going to get smarter with time. And besides that, let's have an amazing rest of the week.